So I'm heading off to do a silent retreat. It's something that I've been wanting to do now for years. I've been threatening to do it for years, and I'm finally doing it. I'm heading out to the mountains. There's a Buddhist retreat. I'm not a Buddhist, but I love the idea of just getting away and doing something really meditative for a couple of days. I think it's going to be a time of really wonderful silence and introspection. That's what I'm expecting. And yeah, I'm just curious and really want to try and sort through issues in my mind over the weekend during the silence. I think that when you strip away everything else, you really kind of have a chance to get to your core. And life is so noisy and so busy, and I have felt burnt out first of all, and then also just, I think, overwhelmed by the noise. And the idea of silence, the idea of just turning the volume down on everything is very appealing to me. So here I am back from the retreat, still on a high. It was an extraordinary experience, and I really would advise everybody in their lives to do a silent retreat at least once. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you what I loved, what I didn't like so much, and I'll tell you about the 3 things that really surprised me during the retreat. Firstly, hi, I'm Sarah. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I share weekly videos on wellness, personal development, and growth. So if this kind of information interests you, please join me. Okay, so for those people who don't know, let me tell you what happens on a retreat. So basically, you go and retreat from the world, so you go away somewhere outside of life. So in my case, I was able to go to a really beautiful place in the mountains. This was actually a place declared a heritage site by Nelson Mandela when he was still alive, and that gives you sort of a glimpse into how beautiful this place was. It's in the mountains, it's on a mountain above valleys, and it's really magnificent and peaceful and far away from everything. So that was the retreating side of it. The silent part of it is that you spend 3 days with other people, but you don't talk. You listen to talks, you listen to lectures, and you do a lot of meditation. That's another aspect of a retreat. In my case, it was a Buddhist retreat, so there was quite a Buddhist kind of influence to it, which I found very interesting. But yeah, a silent retreat pretty much is what it sounds like. I arrived this past Friday afternoon feeling so harassed. I was feeling anxious. The truth is that I almost turned around and didn't go to the retreat because I was caught in terrible traffic. There was roadworks on the way, and I just thought, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can be quiet for 3 days. I don't know if I want to do it. I'd rather just go back and have a drink at a restaurant and be chill. But I did keep going, and I'm so glad that I did. So I arrived and immediately started to feel a lot calmer, just being in retreat. And that's part of the beauty of it, is that you just go away and you start to just absorb some of the nature and the quiet. And yeah, the rest of the weekend was a combination of talks, meditating, eating alongside other people. There were 11 other people from all walks of life, and we had this incredible intimacy because we were taking meals together. We were spending so much time meditating next to one another, but I didn't even know their names, and that was just an extraordinary experience, part of what I really loved. But anyway, so here are the 3 things that really surprised me about this weekend and what I learned. So the first thing that surprised me was how little silence we actually have in our lives. So obviously I know that we live noisy lives. I even said that before I left, but I didn't realize quite how noisy our lives are and how little silence we actually have. We don't even have pockets of silence. So the only way I realized that was when I took all of that noise away over this past weekend, and I suddenly realized that we are either talking, or we are around people who are talking, or we are watching Netflix or YouTube, or listening to the radio, listening to songs, or listening to a podcast. We're sitting in traffic and hearing the noise of the traffic around us. We're constantly surrounded by noise. And within that noise, I can speak for myself, there's no pocket of silence. And I realized on this retreat that I need silence. I need pockets of silence. A lot of the noise we have in our lives is good noise, and we don't want that to go away. But I think what surprised me was realizing that I don't have any pockets of silence and that I need that because I really enjoyed the silence. So that was the first thing that surprised me. The second thing that surprised me is that how easy it was for me to adjust to the silence. So on my way to the retreat, I started to get really nervous about being quiet for 3 days. I didn't know if I could do it. I really didn't know if I could do it. And I didn't know if I wanted to. I thought I'd be lonely and I thought I'd get very bored. But the truth is that I loved the silence. I adjusted very, very quickly to simply having a wall up and knowing that I couldn't talk. And I loved it. It was liberating. It was so nice to be around other people and be with them. So I wasn't lonely, but I wasn't talking to them. And silence strips away everything because it just forces you to be so focused on the moment. Like even when you're eating a bowl of soup, and there was tons of soup on this retreat because it was totally vegetarian, but even like when you're eating soup, when you're not talking and you don't have that noise around you, you focus on the real flavor of the meal and you enjoy it and you just take pleasure in it in a way that you don't when you are talking, when you're discussing. So the silence to me was a lot easier than I thought it would be. The third thing that I learned was that meditation is a lot harder than you think it's going to be. So obviously the physical aspect to me was really difficult, just sitting upright. You're supposed to not be leaning against any surface with your back. I found that very hard. Try and do that 4 times a day for 3 days in a row and it becomes a bit exhausting. I don't know how they do it. Like the people around me were kneeling on little stools, on cushions. It was unbelievable. But anyway, so that was the obvious thing that I thought would be difficult. But the not so obvious thing was that it was difficult to really confront yourself. That's what I found, that knowing that I was going into this meditation studio and for the next 40 minutes, 50 minutes, hour, I would have to just sit and be with my mind. No distractions. That was really difficult. You've stripped away everything else. It's just you and your mind and your essence and your core. And that was difficult. After the first time, I got very emotional the first time I was meditating on Friday night. And then, I was crying while I was sitting there doing the meditation. And there were times in the meditations following that where I felt numb, where I felt emotional again. And times when I actually dreaded just going in there and having to sit there and be with myself. And I had revelations. I did have revelations. Let me rather say that I had clarity. They're just sitting there where you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to just be focusing on your breath. But anyway, I did think a lot. And just within that calmness, I managed to find a lot of clarity over this retreat. So those 3 things surprised me. I would definitely do the retreat again. Definitely when I get back to Johannesburg where I live, I'm going to find some place where I can go and meditate on a regular basis with other people. It's very enriching. It can be life-changing. It's too soon to say if it's life-changing for me, but I feel altered. I do feel that it had a very big impact on me this past weekend. I loved it. I felt moved by the dignity of the people there at this retreat. They were Buddhists mostly. They were very generous. They were calm. They were peaceful. I loved it. I would definitely advise you to try it at some point in your life. So again, if you're interested in this kind of information going forward, please subscribe to my channel and please like and comment. I'd love to hear from you. Cheers.